no, go ahead and fight me. A martial arts expert ruined by an 11-year-old girl. In the 6th grade, I bore witness to a stunning example of malicious compliance. Several grades of classes from our elementary school were called to the gymnasium for some lessons on self-defense. We were to be given some very rudimentary examples of how we, as children, can fight off an attacker if there are no other options. The instructor was a man who had a long martial artist title and was unbearably smug about it. Sure, he'd made some big accomplishments, but he would take every moment available to deliver his lengthy champion title verbatim. Danged if I can remember what it was. It might have been a willful effort on my part to erase it. He was instructing us on how to basically go belly up like a distressed turtle and kick off an attacker. We weren't really understanding how this was feasible, and we were asking a lot of questions about it. He got tired of the questions and called up a volunteer to demonstrate the self-defense technique. He called upon Alice, a girl in my class. He didn't just tell her how to get into position, however. He was putting his hands on her and getting her to lie belly up on the waxed gymnasium floor in a way that was truly creepy and invasive, even to children who might not understand why. He gave her long stares and made some quiet remarks to her that we couldn't hear, but the expression on her face said, "Yuck." I was only 11 years old, but I got the gist of the situation and thought to myself, this guy is ducking gross. She had her legs up to kick, was making kicking motions but clearly swerving away from making direct hits to this man. It wasn't enough for him to just have the kids understand the technique. He needed to demonstrate his martial arts prowess. He said to her, "No, go ahead and fight me. This works on an amateur, but I may, insert his lengthy and proud title here." He could not have known, but my entire class knew, that Alice was a competitive swimmer. She had swimming skills beyond her years and all the medals and awards to prove it. Complete with the muscular development of someone who has spent years mastering their sport, particularly in her legs. Alice seized the opportunity to fight off a man who was already throwing up some problematic indicators of his own predatory nature. She kicked him a few times, clipping a shin or a thigh as he artfully dodged her full-on attacks with a big grin on his face. She then triumphantly planted her sneaker directly into his crotch with a force that made both her and this man red in the face. He let out a strangled yelp before crumpling to the ground. He dry heaved a few times, too. He was in medical distress and some adults rushed to get him help. To the children, though, we just saw a guy get kicked in the balls by a kid, and that's comedy gold in elementary school. He was helped out of the gymnasium amid the roaring, belly-aching laughter of 100+ children. Astoundingly enough, to me, at least, Alice was facing punishment for what had happened. Detention was already assigned. Suspension was up in the air. Thankfully, Alice's mother rose up with the fury of 1,000 women scorned after hearing Alice's testimony of events. Alice faced no suspension, and to my knowledge did not attend any after-school detention sessions. For the rest of the school year, she was recognized as the ultimate badass, and reigning queen of justice by testes. TLDR, self-defense assembly was called by my school. The instructor was both smug and creepy. He called up Alice to demonstrate a self-defense technique and insisted she fight him off. She crushed his reproductive organs and chaos ensued. Edit: I understand why anyone who hasn't had the lived experiences of myself nor Alice would doubt my retelling, and it's your prerogative to feel however you want to feel. While it happened, there is little I can do to convince you of that. Please read Rule 3 of this sub, before you leap to the opportunity to express as much. Thank you. Now to the comments. Please do not question the validity of the submission. Thank you. That reminds me of when I took a Shotokan karate class, easy college credit. And the sensei, who was like a 9th degree black belt or whatever, wanted to demonstrate some kind of complicated block/parry. So, he asks me to help and tells me to throw a punch from my right hand. This was like the second class and I didn't know karate punches yet, but I had been boxing since I was like 11 and apparently the stance is different. And he wasn't expecting a right cross to the cheek and certainly wasn't expecting that level of speed or force on it. He was super nice about it though, and I felt terrible, and he kinda saved it by saying, "Lesson 1, sometimes black belts get punched in the face." Lesson 1, sometimes black belts get punched in the face. Such an important lesson. I remember when I did my first, and only, month of karate, I was a kid, and thought it would make me into a Power Ranger. Alice. She always was a bit of a ball buster, even as a youngster. Edit, thank you kind stranger. Opie replied. Oh, Archie. Are you confusing Edith with Alice, or do I not get the reference? Queen Alice won the All-Star School Bullshit Kicking Championship. And yay for her mom. For not allowing the ridiculous idiots in charge of the shit show to blame an innocent child for doing exactly what an adult forced her to do. FFS, how do such clueless morons end up in charge of anything important? All organizations contain two types of people, those loyal to the purpose of the organization, and those loyal to the organization itself. Over time, the second type of people inevitably wind up in control. Once that happens, they will attempt to protect the organization, particularly its appearance, reputation and authority, even at the cost of its ostensible reason for existing at all. Once you understand this, the seemingly counterproductive actions of a great many organizations make perfect sense. This is one of the best comments I've ever read in my whole life. This is so illuminating and helps articulate something I've seen and experienced but never been able to understand. Street smarts. Opie replied. I had no idea John Mulaney did a bit on school assemblies, I had to look it up. Amazing. Haha yes. That was my favorite bit. Attempting to suspend an 11-year-old for following the directions of a martial arts instructor? Seriously? That's a danged if you do and danged if you don't situation if I've ever heard one. Opie replied. It seemed pretty wild, still does. I can speculate, by having viewed how hard she kicked him and his physical responses, that maybe he had some lasting damage done to his body, and could have threatened the school with legal action. Very messy situation. Alice had the right kind of mother to advocate for her, probably the kind of mother who would have launched a nice lawsuit of her own. He should have worn protective gear, that's on him. He was teaching a class of untrained kids and should have counted on some unpredictability. Telling a kid to go ahead and fight me will never work out. Our gym teacher had a brother who ran a judo place, and they decided to have him host some simple classes by the end of the year. Teacher had an easy class, judo guy had potential new students. He was showing of some hold on a kid and jokingly told the kid that if he could get up he'd give him free lessons for a year. Kid tried, failed, he told the kid to go ahead and do anything, kid bit him in the arm. Kid did get up. My toddler is all over that move right now. I hear they're also masters of the unexpected headbutt to the nuts, but I've only witnessed it once. To the children, though, we just saw a guy get kicked in the balls by a kid, and that's comedy gold in elementary school. Hey, that's comedy gold no matter what age you are. Opie replied. While it often inspires sympathy in me, that has to feel wretched, man, in this instance, it felt like karmic justice. The planets aligned, he moved in just the right direction, and Alice moved in just the right direction to meet him, damaging his pride and possibly his reproductive functions. Phew. I'm in my 50s and it's comedy gold, mostly due to the karmic justice you mentioned. I remember when a women's self-defense instructor came to my elementary school. He had the girls for a full day, and they all had a blast. I can still remember what echoed in the halls the next day. Grab, squeeze, twist, pull, throw. over and over again. Wise words, I guess. Her swimming abilities may have stopped his swimmers. And nothing of value was lost. I used to teach taekwondo, and in one of my classes this girl was pulling her punches during a self-defense move. I told her it's okay to actually hit me since I was a senior belt, and that it would help her training because she wouldn't be enforcing bad habits like pulling her punches in a fight. So, she did hit me. Hard. In the solar plexus. I was on the mat struggling to breathe, and she was apologizing profusely. After I got up, I told her good job and let the kids on a water break. She was one of my favorite students, and I have so many stories about her. Alice. New personal hero. Queen for life alongside her take no shit mother. I wish I'd been there to see this myself. Thanks for sharing. Opie replied. Her mother inspired fear in the hearts of many. She was a tall, robust woman with a serious resting witch face, and if you said something sideways, she would just calmly look at you and say, "Could you repeat that?" You didn't want to repeat that. I saw her at the school often. She was admirable in retrospect. She wasn't about to take anyone's bullshit, and taught her daughter the same thing. Alice wasn't friendly with me, but I hope she went on to live a good life and empower other people. This is an artistic description and I love it. Where's the rest of the novel? Goddang.